Welcome to the Introvert Sisters, the podcast by introverts for introverts, hosted by Sharon and Lisa, two INFJs with a lot to say.
Hi, I'm Sharon.
And I'm Lisa.
And together we're the Introvert Sisters. And we are super excited about this episode because it is a literal case of introverts uniting separately. We are pleased and honored to welcome Richard Etienne and Jeri Bingham to the show. Jeri is the founder of the Hush Loudly podcast and of Black Introvert Week in the US. And Richard is the global director of internal communications at Elsevier and the founder of Black Introvert Week UK. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, folks. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we're gonna jump right in. So we often ask our guests, because we have people on here that are not introverts, but we often ask whether our guests are introverts. Well, that's already clearly been asked and answered, right? But what we do want to know is, did you both always know that you're introverts? And let's start with you, Jeri.
I knew I was different. And for me, I thought that difference was a weirdness and oddity. As I was growing up, I knew that I had friends and I enjoyed them when I wanted to enjoy them, but I also enjoyed being alone and playing with my Barbie dolls and being on my porch and reading and going to the library for pleasure, not for school. And so it wasn't until I was older that I heard the word introvert. And when I was in my 20s, I worked at an ad agency where they had the Myers-Briggs, and someone came in, and it was life-changing for me because I understood my differences. I understood my strengths. I knew they were always there, but it was just affirming and confirming. And so that was beautiful for me. And then that led to other self-discovery, like Susan Cain's book, A Quiet. And so it started really from the Myers-Briggs. And I love that I was grouped with. So for your listeners who may not be aware, the Myers-Briggs type indicator is where you take an exam, answer some questions, and then you're categorized based on your test results. And so I was an INFP, and which is introverted, intuitive, feeling, perceiving. And lastly, I was tested INFJ. So I'm with you ladies. So it seems like I've switched a little as older as I've aged. But when I was grouped with those people, it was the coolest, laid back, most creative people in the agency, and the people that people thought were weirdos, but they were like gods because they rocked it in the agency because they had such creative minds. And that was another thing that was so empowering for me. So that is my little story of introversion.
Okay, thank you. And what about you, Richard? Did you always know that you're introverted, or how did that?
No, it's a similar story to Jeri's, actually. I remember in my school days, especially towards the end of the day when I get home and I just wanted to just decompress quietly, and then I'd have my school friends knocking on the front door afterwards, being like, then my dad would come to the door and they'd be like, Mr. Etienne, is Richard there? Can he come out to play? And I'd be hiding behind the door, signaling no, like miming no to my dad, because my whole thing was that, I just spent 6 or something hours with you guys. Why would you want to spend even more time, right? I'm seeing you tomorrow. So for a long time, I thought there was something wrong with me. And, similar to Jeri, I enjoy going to the school library and, for enjoyment. It's crazy. We're very similar. That's the first time I'm hearing Jeri's story, actually. And it wasn't until I, grew up and started secular work and also found, books like Susan Cain's and other blogs of introverts basically saying, telling their story. And I realized, oh, wait, okay, so I'm not weird. I'm part of this club, of introverts. And I think I'm an INFJ. I was an INTJ for a while. And then I like the fact that I've met my tribe, and I have a
Yes.
12-year-old son, Kieran, and I think he's a very similar introvert to me, and it's just interesting to see him grow. But now I'm actually able to give him the tools to enable him to thrive within school, because currently the education system, especially in the UK, is a one size fits all, and it just doesn't work for different personality types. But I'm sure we'll get into that later.
Right? We absolutely will. We absolutely will.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Go ahead, sis.
Yeah, and I relate so much to what Richard and Jeri said, because I was always that kid that was in the library, and people would say, "Well, how can you be in the library every day? And I was thinking, yeah, but the library is a great place to be. Every lunch hour, I read so many books. It was great. It was great. But let's move on to one of the reasons that we're talking, Black Introvert Week. So I'm going to start with you, Jeri. You are the founder of Black Introvert Week US. How did it come into being, and when does it take place?
Black Introvert Week is February 8th through 15th, and it started in 2021. And it started after I am on this journey and I talk about introversion to universities, to just people. I talk to anybody about it. And I started to understand and recognize that other Black professionals were having the exact same experiences that I was having as an introvert. And so I started hosting panels, and I met Richard and all of these great other experts that I brought on to share their stories. And so I started to realize, yeah, it's bigger. It's bigger than I ever imagined. So why not create a week to announce it, to acknowledge it, to celebrate it, to embrace it? And so the idea was to host panels and have different days that focused on various topics. So one day, let's focus on all the Black introverted artists and entertainers. And another day, let's focus on something else. And so I hosted a panel, and it was very successful. But that's where the idea came from. Just, we introverts are very observant, and we're the best listeners. And so just, I think, assessing and analyzing all of that, like there's something here. And so that's where it started. And Richard has picked it up and has made us global.
Yes.
So he's over in the UK.
Yes. So yeah, and well, that's a perfect segue into you, Richard. So we're in the middle of the second ever, right, Black Introvert Week UK. And so tell us a bit more of the backstory about how it came about. And take us back, and then bring us forward.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we don't have to go too far back. In fact, it was only just last year that Jeri and I met, and I think it was through the Guardian masterclass. Yeah, so I host masterclasses for the Guardian newspaper here, and one is about how to self-promotion for introverts. And Jeri reached out afterwards, and we connected, and we're great friends now. And during our earlier conversation, and after going on to Hush Loudly, Jeri's podcast, found out that she had Black Introvert Week, and I thought, that's amazing. And then Jeri was like, you should totally do it in the UK. And I was like, really? I don't know if it's going to fly over here, but went with it. And the feedback was immense in a sense of, online we had something like over 400,000 impressions across Twitter and LinkedIn. The BBC picked it up. We had Refinery 29 pick it up, and various HR related magazines. The biggest Black newspaper over here, The Voice, also did a piece on it as well. So, and all of the messages that came in, and I'm sure Jeri can relate. It just is overwhelming in the sense that our Black introverts were saying, "Oh my God, I thought I was the only one. I didn't know there was a whole tribe, a whole family of us, and everything you said resonated with me." And in fact, there was a piece that Jeri did for Cosmopolitan UK, which was amplified over here, and it was again it received great plaudits. And so where 2021 was more just about hey, there's a thing, I'm trying it out, let me know if
Right.
it's worth it. Obviously it is now. This year, there's a much more a much stronger campaign initiative behind it, because ultimately what we want to do in the UK. I mean, again, just to give you context, 1/3 of Britons identify as introverts, and so if you think about the Black population in the UK, that's 1 million potential Black introverts, and because of various stereotypes, tropes, etc., especially in the workplace, we're misunderstood as individuals that should be loud, should be gregarious, and very extroverted, and we're seen as something's wrong with us when we're not playing to those stereotypes. So Black Introvert Week in the UK definitely is about educating teachers and employers on how to recognize and nurture the talents of Black introverts, and to raise awareness of the value that Black introverts bring from the classroom to the boardroom. So really pleased. It's 24th to 28th of October this year.
Awesome. And so a little bit more specifically, what can people expect during Black Introvert Week UK?
Certainly. So this year we'll be publishing a range of guides and articles, as well as launching a survey to establish how, or even if, introverted pupils are supported in school. And that matters, because that's the formative years, right? And it's about helping young people to build the confidence that they will take into the workplace. And your listeners can help with this. We definitely want to hear more about the experiences of Black introverts who are listening, who felt misunderstood at school. So definitely keep an eye out on our social media channels over the coming few weeks to find out how you can take part. But there's the big event, which Jeri is part of, on Thursday, October 27th. We're hosting an online panel discussion, and free tickets are available on Eventbrite. And we have amazing writers, campaigners on both sides of the Atlantic, and basically to ask why Britain lags behind the US in recognizing personality diversity. So 27th of October. So that's the big panel event.
Nice. And what I really love, sorry, Jeri, were you about to say something? Please go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think you're saying that Britain lags behind, but we're still slow too. It's not, I think more of us are talking about it. Mm-hmm. And introversion, I think it is becoming a movement, but the whole Black introvert thing, we're still behind. So there's still work to do. So I'm glad we're out here all talking about it.
Yeah. And speaking of all talking about it, one thing I really love is that the two of you are collaborating.
Yes.
Instead of competing, right? Yes. I absolutely love that. As soon as when I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, so she started and just was like, hey, why don't you, Richard, why don't you do your version of it? And you don't hear that a lot. You don't hear that a lot. And I don't even, I don't know what to attribute it to, apart from, obviously you being good human beings with vision, but I appreciate that. And I appreciate you too, setting that example that everything doesn't have to be competitive, that we can build together,
Speaking of which,
I love it.
Speaking of which, that is a nice segue into the next question, because you're both leaders in the introversion space and in your careers. Are there challenges as introverts to leading? Are there upsides to being an introverted leader? I'm going to start with you, Jeri.
I think that there are always challenges when you step into a new role, a new position, as you try to find your way, and people are trying to get to know you. Unfortunately, you can't just be accepted for your expertise, your knowledge. It comes with all of the aesthetics and socialization and the other things that are expected in the workplace. And so when you are an introvert, most of us don't live our lives out loud. We have stuff to say, but we choose when and to whom we want to share our personal business. But usually in the workplace, it's not just work, but people want to be up in your business and they want to know why you don't want to go to lunch with them. They want to know why there are no photos of kids and dogs in your.
Let us know how you really feel, Jeri.
They want to know all of this, and I may not be open to sharing that because I don't have that connection with you. And so it can be unfortunately held against us, and where people don't trust us because we aren't as forthcoming as they'd like for us to be. So this is a challenge that I find, and after talking to many introverted leaders, we all face that. And so we have to I don't know, we can be ourselves, but we also have to work overtime to make others feel comfortable, knowing that they made the right decision hiring us. And so, like for me, and I actually just started a new position. I'm in my office right now. I started in July. And so I immediately do this every job. And this is a tip for any introverted leader: get your big wins in first. So whatever, and I don't know if this is an introvert thing or just a weird Jeri thing. When I saw this position and knew it was for me, I started thinking about what changes I was going to make, what contacts I was going to bring in, what I could do for this university. So I started that before I got the interview. When I got the interview, I started putting more things in place. So when I started the first week, I had things happening. So they think I'm a genius. I'm not a genius, but it's because I started planning like introverts do.
I love it.
I started
Love that.
my internal thinking and figuring everything out. And so I've made some really big strides in just a month. And so that's a tip for introverts. So I think that's a challenge when we first come in and people can't read us, or they read us and they see something else. I've been told so many times, "Oh, I thought you were mean. You're not. You're so sweet." And I will ask, "Why did you think I was mean?" "I don't know. I just thought you were mean." So I don't know if I have one of those resting bitch faces. I don't think I do, but maybe I do. Or either it's that I'm not talking nonstop. I'm not living my life out loud. I'm not wearing everything on my sleeve. And so they can't figure me out. And so then they just assume, oh, she's the mean, and we know the mean and tied to Black girl is not a good look. So I think that is an issue that we as Black women face. And I think Black men also have that too, because of all the stereotypes and everything that comes along with what people believe a Black man should be. So we walk into an environment where we're already, you know, not on a level playing field. And so we have to work a little harder, in my opinion, to prove that we belong there. And once we do it quickly, we're okay. I've had that in every position that I've had, because you have to teach people how to be used. You have to treat people how to teach you.
Yes.
And I think I've gone all off on a tangent. Okay. So
No, you're still on. You're
no,
on.
you are
on.
still on a tangent. And in fact, you answered both questions, Jeri, because that tip that you gave was one of the big upsides of being an introverted leader, which is that ability to plan in advance and really use that intuition, that feeling, that use that to your advantage, and to make people think that you are absolutely brilliant. Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that. I had a recent experience with that where I did something that I thought was pretty normal, and someone says, well, no, everybody doesn't do that. And my thing, this was a really small thing, is that what I would do is I would just log into the company Google Drive and see what had changed, so I knew what was going on, and then I could respond to it. Very, very simple. But that was that gave me time to think about it, to think about what my response was before somebody came to me with questions. And so I was ready when they did. So
Introvert, do it. That's the way to do it.
That's the way to do it. So I'm gonna ask Richard now. Now Jeri has given a great exposition on the challenges of being an introverted leader. Do you have anything to add to that? Are there any upsides for you in being an introverted leader?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of expectations as a leader, just generally, we're expected to be, bold and, kind of, again, that kind of extroverted Elon Musk-ish type behavior. When actually, as an introverted leader, that's not usually our reality. And yes, we are on a sliding scale, right? No one's purely introvert or extrovert all of the time. We have to lean into other sides for certain situations. But one thing I remember when I first started leadership roles as within my introversion, I was seen as a bit aloof or laid back. And that's why, to Jeri's point, getting those early wins were incredibly important, because it meant that my seniors saw what I was capable of and actually judged me on my work rather than other people's perception or misperceptions of me. And actually now, especially in my new role, I just celebrated a year last week at Elsevier, and some of the 360 feedback I received was, you're a calm, considered leader. And in the since the pandemic, where there has been a lot of chaos, a lot of unrest and uncertainty, it's actually the calm and considered leaders and empathetic listeners that have actually been sought after by employees worldwide. So actually, we are, as introverted leaders, emerging as the most desirable type of leaders at this point. And so I'm actually, we're all very fortunate individuals in this space. In terms of tips, I'm always someone who tries to, in meetings, be among the first to speak, because I find that the sooner I contribute, the less time I have to generate self-doubt. And I got that from a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan.
I need to try and implement that. And of course I'm deep into my career and I know what I should do. I find it's such a struggle.
I'm gonna jump in there, because Lisa and I were on a course a couple of weeks ago. Do you remember, sis? And they asked for volunteers to do something or the other. And I was the first to jump in, not because being in front is natural space for introverts, but I knew exactly what you said, Richard, that if I got it out of the way, I would have less time to stress about it. And I did it, and I did it well.
Yes. And I was the last.
And I did not have to think about it for the rest of that session. Best decision I ever made.
I was cowering in my chair, like, oh my gosh, it's coming. Oh my goodness, they're gonna call on me. But yeah, it's you're absolutely right. The best way is to sort of lead from in front and volunteer first. Volunteer instead of being voluntold is always better.
And I want to ask you to just switch directions slightly a bit there, Richard, and talk about, because you are a leader, so how can organizations and leaders be more inclusive of introverted employees? So I'm going to start with you, and then I'm going to I'll go to Jeri.
Yeah, it is about giving introverted, well, first of all, you need to find out who in your team, introverts and extroverts. And the Myers-Briggs personality test that Jeri mentioned at the top is, it's a great start. There are lots of free versions to do that. So, use that as part of your inductions, personal development plans, one-to-ones, whatever, your kind of close relationship touch points are. And then once you've identified who is what, then, make it's being, again, not being voluntold, it's inviting individuals, invite your introverts to do certain things. Don't silent shame. I posted something on LinkedIn recently that started a conversation about that, where, just because someone isn't speaking, it doesn't mean that they have to speak, right? Sometimes the points have already been made, and it's not good to just call out someone, Sharon, you haven't spoken in a while. Do you have anything to add? It's like, maybe it's already been said, you know, what, just don't put people on the spot like that. And also rotate responsibilities. So don't let the same person always chair meetings, especially if that individual is an extrovert. You'll find that when you rotate responsibilities, whether it's the note taker, etc., you get to have different perceptions and observations of the same situation, you know, just like art. And that can actually help to boost, you know, what's the word, cognitive diversity and so forth, you know,
Yes.
in terms of coming to a general solution. So those are the kind of things that are top of mind for me.
Thank you, Richard. And what about you, Jeri? What would you add?
I would add, you know, everybody's talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, that's trending right now. But I feel like people need to walk the walk, and this is diversity. This is inclusivity. We are just as smart, we are just as creative, maybe even more so. And so, why not create spaces that are inclusive of your individuals and their diverse personality types? So, things like having a space that people could, you know, maybe if there's an empty office, and could that be used and booked for you to go and chill for 30 minutes? And whether it's to meditate or do whatever, but giving a space for introverts to go and recharge. For those of us who are not lucky enough, fortunate enough to have an office where we can close the door and do that, and we can stagger our meetings and give ourselves the breaks to recharge, it would be nice for those who are in cubicles and in open office spaces to go somewhere where they can do that. And I think little things like that would show that the company really is valuing the needs of everyone, because we know that we live in a society that celebrates extroversion. Everything is about them and for them. So it would be nice to see other things. And same thing like with what Richard talked about in the meetings. Why not create a space after? Because the way my brain works, when I'm in a meeting and a question or idea is thrown out, it may not come to me right there in that meeting. It may come to me 10 minutes later. It may come to me when I'm driving home. It may come to me anywhere along the way. So it would be nice to, of course, in advance of the meeting, if I had an agenda and I knew what the outcomes were supposed to be or what we were looking to achieve, I could start thinking about it like Sharon. Like I could start thinking about it a week ago or 2 days ago. And so then I'm prepared to share in the meeting. Or if you can't do that, allow a space. Is there a virtual bulletin board? Is there a physical whiteboard or something where you can just go up later for 24 or 48 hours and write down your thoughts or ideas? Those kinds of things I think would be very meaningful for the introverts on your team, allowing them the space to do what they do in the manner that's comfortable for them. So and I think those are simple things to do, and I wish companies would do that.
Absolutely, Jeri. I definitely agree with that. One of the most positive working experiences I've had as an introvert is in a remote company with a document culture. So there's a document for every meeting, there's reading time for the document in every meeting, and then you have time to give your thoughts. And for things that you know are coming up, you know, you get a little bit of advance warning so that they say, we're going to be asking about this in the meeting, so you have a little bit of time. And I think that that is a relatively simple thing, as you say, Jeri, to put into place. So thank you both for those tips. They're really much appreciated. And I know that our listeners and subscribers will appreciate them too. Over to you, sis.
Yes, and so we've spoken a bit about introversion in corporate spaces, but let's take it a bit more personal now. How do you both honor your introversion in your daily lives outside of the office? And let's start with you, Richard.
So I always give myself space, and what I mean by that is, I remember pre-pandemic lockdown, I was out all the time, and I remember during lockdown thinking, how did I even afford that, let alone have the energy to do that? But then, towards actually just before 2020, I started having Monday evenings for myself. So I don't care who invited me to what, like Monday evenings were mine, unless obviously something came up with my son. But, I always carved out specific time for me. I know we said not to talk about work, but I book my lunches like in my calendars, and that's also
That's personal time.
yeah, that's exactly that's
Yes.
my time. So, and there's like there's a thing on Outlook that you can do which automatically rejects meetings that are booked in during that time slot. So there you go. So
I'm gonna
that's
be Googling that.
yeah. I turned it off for the first 6 months of my new job because of the CEO, just in case, But outside of that, yeah, I have a very close network of friends and family who I've been very open with about my personality, and they know me very, very well. So, they are, they would always invite me to things, but there's always this no obligation, no pressure attached to it. And I think that it comes down to communication. And I'm not saying this because I work in communications, but it's everybody should know that the way for relationships, any relationship to work, is to be open with your communication about your feelings and your needs. And so I'm very, very vocal and open with my nearest and dearest about what I need. I went on a holiday with my immediate family recently during the summer holidays. We all shared this kind of treehouse cabin, and they knew when they saw me in the corner with my book, it's Richard, that's his time. They were playing board games. They're like, you know what, Rich, you good? Like, yeah, I'm good. That's it. They didn't ask any questions. They don't pressure me. They're like, oh, come on, it's just one game. It's just 10 minutes. None of that, So yeah, I'm just very open. I block out time, and I'm consistent with it as well.
Yeah, it's good that your family not only recognize your boundaries, that they recognize them, but they respect them as well, without pressuring you. And it's interesting that you spoke about the whole blocking lunch thing. Surprisingly to me, a post of mine that randomly went semi-viral on LinkedIn was on that exact topic, basically saying, please just let's normalize letting people have their lunch alone if that's what they want to do, and stop shaming them and stop trying to force lunch and learn meetings and all that stuff.
After work drinks.
Oh my gosh. So it's a real thing. So anyway, but yes, Jeri, so what about you? How do you show up as an introvert in your, outside of work?
Yeah, the same. And so it's kind of what Richard was saying, setting boundaries, but more so understanding yourself and knowing, if someone invites me to something and I really, really don't want to go, don't go. Don't make yourself do it. You know what's best for you. But I think my friends also and family, they know me well. And, if we're going to Santa Barbara, we went on this trip, a bunch of us went. Everybody knows Jeri's getting her own room. I'm not staying in a room with 3 other women. I'm not. I just can't. I don't want to. I need my own. And I love them. I love them. We can be together from 7 a.m. to 12 midnight, but I need my own space just for me, my quiet time. Everybody sleeps differently. TV's on, TVs, people snore, all of that. And I need my sleep.
Yes.
So, people need to be comfortable, introvert or not, understanding who they are and knowing what's going to work for you. But I need my quiet time. I need my space. And whether I'm doing anything or not, it doesn't matter. Just kind of need my time and space. And even my phone, my ringer is always off. My ringer is never on. I do look at it. That's just for me. The ringing, the constant, I don't like all that. And that's one of the things that I've read and researched about introverts is we usually prefer less stimulation, and that stimulation, whether it's noise, people, lighting, sounds, we usually crave less of it versus extroverts crave more of it. And that's why they have all the lights on, all the radios, TVs, everything. Nothing
Video, TV,
it doesn't bother them.
everything.
Doesn't
Same
bother,
time.
we're more sensitive. So we hear every TV, we hear every horn honking, we hear everything. And so we try to minimize that because that's best for us, and the energy and the way we like to receive it. So I think setting boundaries and knowing yourself.
I have two things to say. Thank you, Jeri, on that. One is that having plans with yourself is okay. And the second is, and you know what I'm going to say, Lisa? Text, don't call.
Yes.
Always.
Don't call me.
It is law. It is introvert law.
Yeah.
Number one.
Yeah.
Text, don't call.
You
They're
know,
like, I don't even know if there are as many as 5 people, right? One of them is on this call now that I actively like said, oh, I would love to speak to this person on the phone.
Yeah.
It's like, Sharon, my mom, a couple other people. That's it.
Yeah.
Other than that, please text me.
You can love people and still not want to talk to them on the phone, just like you can love
Yes.
people and still not want them in your space all the time. And, that is honoring your introversion.
Yes.
And
Amen.
That.
yeah, it's really interesting that since we started doing this podcast, that some people that never used to understand why I always sounded a little bit grumpy on the phone will now text me first and say, is this a good time to talk? And I say, thank you for honoring my introversion in that way.
Yeah.
It is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like you said earlier, Jeri, you have to train people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and you have to train your friends and family the same way you have to train your coworkers.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Okay, so now let's turn to something a little bit lighter for a second. So share a song, book, podcast, or movie that's meaningful to you and say why it's meaningful. And I'm going to go to you first, Jeri.
I'm going to say Finding Joe because I just recommended it to a young lady. So Finding Joe is a really interesting, light, but yet deep documentary. And it's based on the life of Joe Campbell, who was a mythologist. And he wrote about the hero's journey. And I'm going to give you an example. He talks about Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, let's say The Wiz, the Black version. And Dorothy is off on this journey and she runs into all of these people that need these things, the cowardly lion and all that. But when she ultimately returns home, she realizes that everything she needed was within her and that she was fully equipped. And so the documentary just kind of analyzes that and talks about how things, when you're on your journey, when you're on your path, which is where I think I am today, and Richard and you ladies, things drop into your lap. Things happen, doors open, mountains move, and you don't know why. It's because you are in the zone and you are on your path. And so that documentary, I would say everybody needs to see it. It doesn't matter whether you're an introvert or not, but just helping you in your self-discovery and understanding your life and the way things are working and how you make things happen and manifesting things. So that's called Finding Joe.
Thank you so much, Jeri. What about you, Richard?
So I just wrote down Finding Joe. I'm going to check that out after this. So another documentary, this for me as well. This time it's called The Work. And it's a documentary set in prison. And it's 3 men from outside the prison participate. They were volunteers and they participated in a 4-day group therapy session with the incarcerated men. So it's like a fly on the wall documentary on rehabilitation from the inside. And the reason why it struck a chord with me is because, number one, I have male friends, and only recently, I'm 38 now, and I feel like only in the past 5 or so years, our conversation has gone a bit deeper. When we talk about real life stuff, and actually, I love them more deeply because of that. And I just watching this documentary, it made me cry, it made me laugh. There were so many different moments where I'm like, wow, like, look at us men, like we just need to just open up a bit more. Like, just look what happens when we do that. And also stereotypes, so, those individuals who came from the outside and participated, they were specifically picked because they were, criminals deserve to stay in there for life. They're no good, blah, 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 blah. And they're in there crying with them, weeping with them, being friendly with them. And, we are more than your perception, one's perception of others, right? And that's where I think that introversion or personality, regardless of your personality thing, links in. And as a light thing, I love The Devil Wears Prada. I can watch that.
I love that too.
Love it. One of my all-time favorites.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so as we are moving towards close, let's think about the future a little bit. So what is your vision for Black Introvert Week in general? So Jeri, what's your vision for Black Introvert Week in the US?
I would love for it to be recognized, popular, well-known, just like all these other days that we honor. So I am going to do my best to create synergy like we have here, and to create panels where we are educating extroverts, but we are empowering introverts. And just creating opportunities for us to shine. That's pretty much what it's all about for me, and creating and building or strengthening this movement, because I do think it is a movement and the time is now. So I don't know where in years, but I hope that it's bigger and more well-known, and that it brings joy to introverts as we connect and grow from each other and learn from each other. And back to what Lisa said earlier about Richard and I and the competition, that there not being a competition, I think that's an introvert thing. I think that when we have a purpose and we get behind something and are passionate about something, we go hard, and then we help others along the way, and we build. And I'm just going to claim that as an introvert thing, because I'm I can't stop talking about introverts. We're just the bomb.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. And what about you? What about you, Richard? What about Black Introvert Week UK? And again, this is where we are right now, right? Yeah. Black Introvert Week UK. And so, what's your vision? If you had a wish list, what's your wish list for the future of Black Introvert Week UK?
Gosh, I mean, for me, I definitely would like to influence the curriculum, the way the curriculum is taught in this country. So, we once data is gathered, whether we commission it or do it ourselves, we can use that to approach think tanks that influence the policy that goes all the way up to government. Because I was a introvert child in the school, and I remember parents' evening where the teacher would sit with my dad, and in front of him are all A's and B's and so forth, and the teacher saying, we really want Richard to participate a bit more, speak up a bit more in class. And my father's like, but I'm just seeing A's and B's here. Well, I don't understand. What's the problem? What's the problem? Yeah. So definitely influencing, policy within education, and also from the secular side, making sure that personality diversity is part of training, whether it's induction training, regular leadership training. I feel like there needs to be more awareness in the workplace around this topic. And to Jeri's point, I'm loving the network that we're building, and the added voice that we're giving to Black introverts everywhere. So I think this cross-Atlantic coalition is just
right.
I love it.
Yes, I mean, I absolutely love it. I mean, it's just, you're in the UK, Jeri and I are in the US, Sharon is in Barbados, and we're all introverts and collaborating together, and it's just absolutely wonderful. It warms my heart.
Beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Yes.
It's a beautiful thing. And so as we close out, let our listeners and viewers know where they can find you, how to support you. And let's start with you, Jeri. on social media and wherever else?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Hush Loudly. My website is hushloudly.com, and on LinkedIn, it's my name. So it's Jeri Bingham at LinkedIn. And so I love followers. I love suggestions, ideas. So that's where you can find me. And information about Black Introvert Week US will be posted on my website, which is hushloudly.com.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And Richard, again, Black Introvert Week UK, we're doing it. We're doing it. Where can people find all the info, all the big things that are going?
Love that. So
Yes.
on social is at UK Black Introvert, and then the website is blackintrovertweek.uk. And if you do want to holler at me on LinkedIn, it is my name as well.
All right.
I can just say, don't ask people to holler.
Oh yeah, sorry.
That's
Yeah, wow.
No.
Don't holler.
That's a whole nother podcast topic. Don't ask for what you don't want.
Oh man, what have I done?
Oh, yes,
All right.
That's all I'm gonna say.
This has been absolutely phenomenal. It has been such a pleasure having you here. Jeri, founder of Black Introvert Week in the US, and Richard, founder of Black Introvert Week in the UK. Big up to Jonathan Ashton-Lamptey for connecting us in the first place. So excited that there is a forum and a movement for us as Black introverts globally. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Introvert Sisters. Loved what you heard? You can catch all our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major platforms. Subscribe, rate, and write a review. Find us online at theintrovertsisters.com and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Introvert Sisters. See you next time.